Greetings everybody, Redbeard here for the July 6, 2016 edition of the Midweek Update. In case you were wondering, I've been gone for about 30 days because of the fact that I violated the YouTube wellness policy. Yeah, I own it, no excuses. Number 5 story of the week is that AML Wrestling has announced Cody Rhodes will be coming next year. It's a very interesting story from the standpoint that you've got one of the most sought-after stars in the entire professional wrestling universe who is now going to be coming to the Carolinas, making what will probably be one of his only appearances here. Story goes that he actually was contacted by the folks behind the WrestleCade event about being there and chose not to because of the fact that this was going to be an event that takes place over a holiday weekend. So they said, okay, well, what else can we do with you? And it winds up that he's going to be making an appearance with AML in January of 2017. Pretty cool to think that he'll be there. They've got a lot of awesome talent on their roster. People are wondering, okay, well, who's going to be his opponent? The obvious choices would be either King Shane, if he's still got the title at that point in time. He could be a challenger, or it could be a situation where you have one more guy who gets involved with someone like Cedric Alexander, or maybe a Caleb Conley, or whoever else happens to be a top flight member of their roster at that point in time. Still though, pretty cool they're going to be bringing him in. I hate to think of how much money that cost them, but hopefully it'll reap their benefit. The other thing of this that I want to mention about how awesome it is just the fact that think of somebody like Cody Rhodes, who essentially was told by WWE, we've done the best we can with you and we don't have anything, and yet on the independents he's booked 6 months out. That's crazy. He's going to be probably tied up with gosh knows how many scheduled bookings for the conceivable future. So good on him, good on AML for bringing in a hot talent there as well. Number 4 story of the week is that Ultima Lucha Dos begins tonight. This is the second incarnation of the Ultima Lucha program, which is of course sort of a WrestleMania type program put on by Lucha Underground. This is their capstone, if you will, of their season 2. This will be, unfortunately, the last 3 shows. They're being broadcast over the next 3 weeks. Starts tonight on the 6th. Will be also broadcast in the following 2 segments on the 13th and the 20th. But this is sort of the capstone, as I mentioned, of their season. This is where they wrap up all the loose ends from creative standpoints and try and say, okay, well, this is where we're going to end. And next year, with our season 3, which has already been recorded, at least in part, is where we'll pick up next. This show is kind of hard to avoid spoilers because it was recorded back in January of this year. Yeah, that's 5-6 months ago. So it's amazing that they've been sitting on this thing that long, but hopefully that means that whatever production value they've been able to add to it by virtue of having had that long a period of time to work on it, polish it, will make it even better of a program. But that remains to be seen. The focal point of a program like this, of course, is the in-ring product, not all the bells and whistles they can tag onto it. But be that as it may, looking forward to the show. It's going to be, as we mentioned, split into 3 parts. It's a 3-hour show, just like a normal pay-per-view, but it's split across 3 weeks. A lot of good matches that are going to be on this card, or what we hope to be good matches anyway. Stuff that we're really looking forward to are the, of course, probably biggest confrontation that we've seen here in a long time in terms of Lucha Libre, that being Prince Puma taking on Rey Mysterio Jr. You've got sort of the, I hate to say old guard in regard to Rey Mysterio Jr. as it relates to Lucha Libre and cruiserweights in this country, but you've got him taking on Prince Puma. That's sure to be a top-notch matchup there. You've got a death match, which that's completely unheard of in terms of being broadcast on TV, if they actually go that far. But that will involve Mil Muertes and King Cuerno, which those 2 guys have had a feud that has existed throughout this entire season that's involved the Lucha Underground title at various points. So that'll be a really good payoff to see that happening. And then, of course, you've got the actual Lucha Underground Championship match, which will be between the Monster Matanza Cueto and Pentagon Jr. Pentagon Jr., who had just recently won a title with AAA. I'm not sure which one it was that they had up for grabs with him, but anyway, looking forward to seeing what happens there. We're hoping to see Pentagon Jr. in action later this month in Georgia. We'll have to see how that goes. Regardless, Lucha Underground is one of our favorite products in terms of TV shows. Great things happening there all the time in terms of this combination of talent that just comes out of nowhere. But we're looking forward to seeing what happens in the next 3 weeks. And it kicks off tonight on El Rey Network with Ultima Lucha 2. And the number 3 story of the week is that the WWE Cruiserweight Classic has begun. This is a program that's being taped. A lot of people thought that initially it was going to be a live broadcast on the network, but it's being recorded. They've got a lot of talent included in this thing. And I'm sure they'll be including a lot of behind-the-scenes footage and whatnot, talking about all these guys as they come up through the brackets. And they want to let everybody know who these guys are, I'm sure, because a lot of people just don't know who they are. The average wrestling fan does not know who, for example, a Jack Gallagher is, or a Zack Sabre Jr., or even, hey, a Cedric Alexander. Those of us in the Carolinas know who that guy is, but some fan up in Idaho somewhere has never heard of Cedric Alexander. Or if they have, it's been through the internet and it's been somewhat sparingly. But at any rate, looking forward to seeing what they do with these programs. There have been some images and some spoilers online, of course, that let you know what's going on there. It does look as though this is going to be a bracket-style tournament. I'm not sure if it's going to be single elimination or what the actual rules there are. I don't think that's been documented anywhere yet, so we'll have to find out what's going on there. But it does appear from what we've been seeing that the people you would expect to win the first couple of rounds have been making their way through the competition they've been introduced to. And that's good news, wink, 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 for those of us who are fans of certain, wink, 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 talent from the Carolinas, to not give you too much of a spoiler there. But at any rate, the one aspect of the production that I thought was pretty cool is that they've developed a silver and purple and black kind of color scheme. And a lot of folks have been making comments about how this sort of comes off as an Evolve type event, because if you're at all familiar with Evolve, it's very similar talent, very similar types of shows that they're talking about, but that color scheme is, of course, the Evolve logo. If you've never seen that before, it's silver and purple and black. So a lot of things have just really reminded people that Evolve is involved and that they're creatively behind this. So it's good to have a lot of guys getting opportunities there. It's going to be cool to see this thing as it unfolds. Hoping to, cheer on our hometown crowd here to whatever type of victory they can. If nothing else, hopefully some advanced exposure. So looking forward to that. It gets underway next week, July 13th on the WWE Network. Number 2 story of the week are the continued ramifications of Roman Reigns' suspension. This is a still unfolding story. It's been something that's captured the entire wrestling universe, and it's unfortunately something that we haven't had a chance to talk about since we've been gone for about a month. We joked in the opening about the wellness policy violation there, but this is a true blue scenario to where it proves that no one is safe in WWE, at least not from the policies they've set forth. Because if they were going to suspend a guy like Roman Reigns, they'll suspend anybody. The story has kind of evolved from, okay, well, we're shocked that he did it, to now we want to know what he did. And this seems to be a case of where he might have been taking something for maybe an not an antidepressant, but for some type of an ADHD medication, because from what we've been seeing, it looks as though he might have gotten in trouble for a type of amphetamine, which can be anything from ADHD medication all the way up to cocaine. We'll never know what it was, because of course that would be a violation of his rights in terms of client-patient privilege and all that good stuff, HIPAA, whatever you want to call it. But of course there have been plenty of comments made about, well, how could he, why did he do this, what was his reasoning for getting involved with something like that. A lot of people have gone so far as to call it an embarrassment. Jim Ross was one of those who did that. I can't say I disagree with him, because the fact of the matter is, he's the top dog in the company. They're really relying on him to be that next big thing beyond John Cena. Of course, a lot of people have talked the past couple of years, well, how long is John Cena still going to be with the company? You don't know. He could leave at any point in time and say, oh, here's Hollywood, I'll go do something that doesn't require me to land on my head every couple of days. But regardless, it looks as though things are going to be coming back around for him. The suspension doesn't have that much longer to it. The thought is that there'll be some type of creative opportunity with them doing some type of redemption storyline with him. I really don't think that's going to be any better in terms of trying to get him over as a good guy or someone who's liked any more than what they've done previously. I hate to say it, but I think because of the fact that they introduced him as the guy, they really shot themselves in the foot. They didn't give him any opportunity to progress from one stage to the other. He was just sort of laid out before everyone and said, okay, this is it. This is what you got. People didn't like that then, they're not going to like it now. I don't care if it's Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, whoever else they want to throw at him. I just don't think it's going to work, but we'll see. We'll have to give it a chance. The old college try, as they say. But regardless, it's going to be interesting to see what happens whenever Reigns does come back. Number one story of the week is continued speculation over what is coming with the WWE Brand Split. There's a lot of talk online about this, a lot of things up in the air, a lot of people thinking, oh, well, we know what's going on. I don't think anybody has a clue at this point in time, not even some of the big wigs behind WWE, because, of course, they're famous for making changes at the last minute. The things that we do seem to know are that there will, of course, be a draft, and it'll be taking place after the WWE Battleground pay-per-view later this month. It's looking as though, at that point in time, you'll have possibly 2 different WWE champions. The reason we say that is because there was a very subtle change a couple of weeks ago from the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, which of course Dean Ambrose won here not too long ago, from it being called that to just the WWE Championship. That has led people to believe, well, they could be bringing back the big gold belt, or at least something else that would let them say, okay, well, we've got the WWE Championship, and we've also got this other championship. Both would be somewhat equal in saying, okay, well, we represent the company with this title. That's going to be a little bit confusing, of course, because not only are you going to have those 2 titles floating around, you're going to have the affiliation with the specific brands, and you're also potentially going to have that continue to be a trend trickling down to the other divisions. The one that we've heard talked about most prevalently is the WWE Women's Division. Almost said Divas Division there. Thank God I don't have to worry about that anymore. The concept there being that you might have 2 titles as well. How you denote one versus the other in that regard, I have no idea. Because there's only ever been one women's division champion. It'll possibly be like the old Superman comic book where they split him in 2 and it was Superman Red and Superman Blue. Well, now you've got the women's division Red, women's division Blue for SmackDown and Raw. Who knows? A lot up in the air as far as the title picture is concerned. A lot up in the air as far as the draft is concerned as well, because you've got the potential for stables to be broken up, the potential for people who have been infused to be realigned. Lots of things could happen here. The one that has gotten a lot of attention here the past few days is the concept of the New Day being broken up. Evidently, there is some interest in having Big E Langston as a top star, and unfortunately putting Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods back into sort of a mid-card level. I still think the fact that the New Day is as hot as they are means they should stay together. It's an unfortunate time for them because this sort of spurs on this type of change, but here again, we'll have to see what happens. You never know. They could decide to keep them together. It could wind up that they're all going separate ways. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of opportunities creatively coming forward, because WWE has been stale here for a long time, in my opinion, creatively speaking. The Roman Reigns suspension has opened up some opportunities for them, but they've kind of just left it as a status quo. Sort of saying, okay, we're just going to hold on to what we got until the draft comes around. The other angle that you can look at this is, of course, the opportunity for NXT talent to be brought up. There have been words like a raid happening of NXT here soon. In my opinion, you've got people like Bayley, American Alpha, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, others who are just kind of down there waiting for the opportunity to come up and say, hey, I'm here. Let's go and kick some butt on the main roster. So hopefully those guys will get chances as well. But people who are going to be getting chances this weekend are quite prevalent in this area, because we've got 9 shows that we're aware of that are coming up in this part of the world this weekend. Before we get to those posters, though, we want to go ahead and talk about what's chapping my beard this week. It's a little thin, but still plenty of chap. Alright folks, get comfortable. It's a little bit of story time with Redbeard here. Back, say, 10-15 years ago, old Redbeard got involved with a couple of different wrestling promotions. Never as a wrestler, I was never talented enough athletically to do anything along those lines. So I was more of a gopher boy, do whatever you need to, production type. I did a few posters, did some web programming, did a little creative writing here and there for programs and whatnot, but that was the extent of what I was involved in. Regardless, did have an opportunity to work with those promotions. It was fun while it lasted. And as part of those days, I was able to encounter a number of awesome talents. One of them being a fellow named TJ Mack, who of course is also a member of Team Action. He's the younger brother of Kirby Mack. TJ, some people would say, maybe might have even been the more talented of the two brothers there, but I digress as far as getting into that discussion is concerned. One thing that TJ did was he created a character named Dexter Poindexter. Now, of course, the name Dexter Poindexter has been around previously to that, but Dexter was a nerd gimmick. And here's a picture of TJ Mack as Dexter Poindexter. As you can see, very creative from the angle of representing a nerd culture. He even came out to the main Star Wars theme as his entrance music. And then, you know, things just kind of dried up with the Mack brothers. They just more or less said, okay, we're done. There was no pomp, no circumstance. They just kind of decided, okay, we're retired. And that was about 6 or 7 years ago. From that point in time till now, haven't really seen anybody pursue something like a Dexter Poindexter style character. But then suddenly, this Gilbert Lung character comes up in my timeline here a couple days ago. And it infuriated me to no end. Because of the fact that Dexter Poindexter was a personal favorite of mine. I always thought the character was top notch. TJ did a tremendous job in putting it out there. Just couldn't say enough about the work he did as Dexter Poindexter. So not only for somebody to show up as basically Dexter Poindexter, in terms of the total outfit, you look from top to bottom at that character that's in that graphic I just showed, and compare it to Dexter Poindexter, it's literally the same thing. So you got that in terms of one piece of theft. Then the name itself, Gilbert Lung. Does that ring a bell? You watch movies? You ever see a little movie called Nerds? Or Revenge of the Nerds, I should say? Yeah, that was one of the characters in Revenge of the Nerds. So here again, you got two examples of a theft of a creative property, in my opinion. That kind of thing happens all the time in wrestling. People will say, well, why are you getting drawn up about it? It's just one of these things that doesn't need to happen, in my opinion. How many times does someone have an opportunity to come out and express themselves? This is a guy who, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, has been handed this by his trainers. And I'll say that because of the fact that I believe I know who he's being trained by. And because of the fact that the people who were involved with some of the promotions that I was involved with back around that point in time were booking TJ Mack. They were booking Dexter Poindexter. I just get the impression that there's some folks behind the scenes in a certain part of the world that are responsible for this, and it's really, really got me chapped here. But what can I say? That's wrestling for you. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and roll those posters that we talked about here a moment ago. There are 9 of them, 9 events, I should say, that are coming up this weekend we're aware of. So let's go ahead and make you aware of those, and we'll be back in a few moments to wrap up the show. There you have it, a rundown of the events that are coming your way this weekend. If you're a wrestler, a promoter, or in some way involved with a wrestling promotion, and you didn't see your poster in that part of the show, it's because we didn't know about it. We do our best to peruse social media to keep abreast of what's happening in this part of the world, but we do miss things. That said, if you would like to, go ahead and send us your information and your posters. We'll be glad to get your stuff out there and advertise it for you here on the program, and also get you on the Rasslin with Redbeard Facebook page as well. You can find a link to that down in the description of this program, as well as a few other good links there for the Twitter page and also the Carolina's Professional Wrestling Awards page, which I am also involved with there as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Glad to have you guys back around after a month. If you enjoy the program, please go ahead and click that like button. And if you really enjoy what we got here on the channel, go ahead and click subscribe. Got a lot of good matches out there for you to take a look at and plenty of other content as well. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next week.